Okay. Awesome. Damn, that worked much better than I expected it to, actually. I did not expect things to go off without a hitch on the first try, but that's what they've done. So, about, how long was it? About an hour and a half ago, the power in my house went off randomly, and so this video, which I was not going to record today because I didn't feel like I was ready enough for it, it suddenly made a lot of sense because I wanted to do it out in nature or, out of the office so that I could just talk, I don't know, without any expectation or anything like that. So, yeah, here we are, beautiful. What I wanted to cover in this video is this hypothesis that I have, which is about who can start their own business and who can achieve their own financial freedom and their own freedom over their time and their life. And this is the second week that I've been testing my hypothesis, and I think the first week was a massive success in terms of reclaiming my time and feeling like I was able to do what I wanted to do and work on what I wanted to do. But the financial side of it, not so much. Now that's something that comes with time and comes with working with clients and, a lot of effort, blood, sweat and tears. But I wanted to set out what I'm trying to do at the start and what my vision is and why I believe that anybody can achieve this sort of thing in whatever aspect of their life or whatever they have chosen to do with their life. Because to me it makes sense, and the numbers make sense, that anybody can achieve this if they put their mind to it and if they have the right strategy for it. So what I wanted to do is set out why I believe this hypothesis and the information that I've sort of worked with to get here. And the information that essentially allowed me to make the decision to start my own business rather than working for somebody else. And why I have faith that the process that I'm sort of undergoing is on the path to success. And I think that it's something that, I think I spoke about this in my previous video, but I've been really surprised and overwhelmed by the number of people who I've spoken to, especially young people, who really resonated with my message of getting their, having control of their life and having control of their finances and their freedom. And I think especially now more than ever, people need that kind of hope and that positive message, because if you look around the world, as again, like I went over in that previous video, there's a lot of doom and gloom, and it's very easy to sort of succumb to that, or to doom yourself and stop yourself before you start. But yeah, at least my hypothesis is that this sort of thing is possible, and if I can do it, you can do it. So I did have some notes about the sort of prerequisites I think that people need in order to make this successful. So I think you need an existing business or type of business, and that's when I say that, I mean it's really broad in terms of you need to do something that is already being done in some capacity, whether that's being a sparky or a hairdresser, if it's something that's very service oriented like that, or in my case, for example, I did consulting, so that's sort of a pre-established thing. I think that in 99% of cases, what you're doing is going to be already established, unless it's, underwater basket weaving or whatever it is. I think you're going to be okay on that front. I think the second important thing is that you need to understand the work and know how to do it by yourself. And that's something that takes a lot of time and experience, and I think it's one of the things that you can get stuck on is, do I know what I'm doing? Am I able to do this, confidently? So I think that's really important, and you need the self-belief in being able to do that as well. I think you need a little bit in terms of giving yourself time to start things up, and so for that reason you need to be able to cover the cost of doing it, both from a time and finance perspective. So I think I spoke about this in the last video, but if you've got a young family, it can be quite difficult to balance these things. That's not to say that it's not worthwhile at all, but you just need to take that into account and plan for that financially, and also in terms of how you're managing your time with your family. But if you have those things, I think that's all you need. The only other things that I've got down that you need to be able to develop is networking, basic marketing, and basic business acumen, obviously improving that over time. I don't think any of those are particularly hard to acquire. Networking, maybe, there's an art to it, especially in-person networking, but I don't think any of those should be able to stop you, especially with the resources that exist online these days to help you pursue whatever you want to do. I've learned so much, even in the last 6 weeks or so, from just online classes and things like that for free. So yeah, I think if you've got those things, you have a business model that works, or you've seen exist somewhere. That's not to say that what you're offering can't be a unique spin, but just the type of business model, I suppose. If you understand what you're doing and you can do it by yourself, you don't need any support. And if you've got that startup time and cost and you've squared that away, I saw somebody. Oh, sorry, no, this was actually in a local businesses thing. They said that you're meant to have about 12 to 16 months to start up. I think I've undershot that a bit in terms of the fact that I don't have anywhere near that. So I'm really flying by the seat of my pants to try and show you, hopefully, that this is something that can be done even if you're a little bit on the lower side of that. Not that I would recommend it, of course, but it's an option for you. So yeah, anyway, I did speak in the last video about how I wanted this to be for a whole bunch of young people, but specifically for young Australian professionals. So what do I mean when I say that? I think that's people who are on their way to getting into the world of business. So 17 plus, maybe younger than that if you want, but 17 plus, you're hitting the end of school, you're heading to university, maybe you're doing a trade, something like that, and you're sort of going, okay, how do I set myself up for success in the future? That's one group. Second group, and I think where I've been sitting for a while, and I think hopefully where this can be helpful, is for those people who have been in the world of business for a while, that they've been working for maybe 3, 5, 7, up to 10 years or so. They know their craft inside and out, whether it's, in my case again, consultancy in whatever specialism you're doing, or if it's sales in a certain way, or if it's a particular service, whatever it is. You know how to do that without the help of other people. I think that to get your freedom back and your financial certainty back, given that we are going into ever more uncertain times financially, and everything's always becoming more expensive with inflation, I think it's just a no-brainer that you have to have equity over the money that you're generating through your work in order to be successful in that sort of a situation. I think it's perfect for that type of person as well, which is the type of person that I was, making that transition from working for somebody else to working for yourself. And then lastly, I think that it even applies to those people who maybe have been in the industry for 10 plus years, 15 years, 20 years, who have always worked for another person. I think them, particularly for that person, they have the shortest runway towards working for themselves, because they most likely already have a network, already have clients that know them, that they've worked with extensively, and are going to be more recognized as being masters of what they do. So hopefully they can make that transition really smoothly. And so when it comes to each of these groups, I think for people who are coming out of high school, in university, doing a trade, that sort of thing, you're probably, depending on your skill, you're looking at absolute earliest. Well, maybe if you were amazing at sales or something like that, you could really push the envelope on this. But I would say 3 years or so. 2-3 years is enough time for you to learn a lot of things, learn a lot of skills, and be able to apply them in the real world. Now, in my case, when it came to consulting, a lot of the experience that you get is through doing projects. So you might want to push that time horizon out a bit to say 5 years, 7 years. And I think if you're doing this, in my case, I sort of did it for 7 years or so before I made the switch, 7-8 years. But I think that if you're doing it with intention and you're sort of following the pathway that I'm going to set out here, then what you do is you really speed run that process and you get to where you want to be much more quickly. Like, I think back, and if I had been working as hard as I am now for the last 7 years, there's no way I would still, it would have taken this long for me to get here. Like, I would have got there in probably 4 years or so. So, yeah, take that with a pinch of salt. Yeah, if you're really early on, then 2 to 5 years or so, get into your career, learn your skills so well that you can do it with your eyes closed, and then be ready to make that transition. If you've been in the industry for longer and you sort of have these skills, but you haven't really thought about working for yourself until now, I think it's very quick to be able to make that transition once you realize that it's possible and once you start to plan for it. So if you've been in the industry for 5-7 years, say, I mean, from the time that I decided I was leaving to the time that I started my business was essentially my, what's the term, like my resignation period, so 4 weeks. In reality, more like 6 weeks or so, and I think that was probably too quick in a lot of ways, but I guess it goes to show, hopefully when I'm successful coming to you in future videos, that you can actually do it in a very short period of time once you make the call and once you get to grips with what you need to do to make it a reality. And then if you're even more advanced in your career, it could be such a quick transition that within a couple of months you can have everything squared away that you need, both in terms of the administration side, so setting your business up, setting up bank accounts, incorporating if you want to, getting marketing and branding done, that sort of thing, as well as mentally preparing yourself, setting up with a business plan, all of that good stuff. If you give yourself 2 to 6 months for that, you can just fly straight into these things, because in that time as well, you're laying the groundwork with your existing clients, you're letting your existing network know. And if you haven't, pissed off everybody in your workplace, the people around you are going to be happy for you. And this is what I've experienced. They're going to want you to succeed. They're going to want to help you succeed. And so talking to them about, this isn't every case, but in most cases, talking to people or being smart about who you talk to with it, they'll want to help you with it as well. So that can really accelerate things too. I hope this is focusing properly on me, because otherwise it's going to be really awkward if I'm blurry. I guess you'll already know if that's the case. And so during this initial stage, so 2 to 5 years if you're just starting out, or 12 months, or 6 to 12 months if you've got experience, or if you're really experienced, maybe 2 to 6 months, what should you be doing during this period? So as much as possible over the course of your career, up until you make the decision to move, what you want to be doing is learning your craft. I've already spoken about this, but learning what you do inside and out so that you don't need any support to do it. You can do it completely autonomously, and I would say, given that this video is midway through 2025, or getting into late 2025 now, Jesus, there are so many tools out there that you can use for automation and AI integration. Obviously that's with a pinch of salt, because these things aren't perfect and they do often make mistakes, but if you can figure out how to automate your job down to it taking half as long or a quarter as long as it does at your current workplace, you should not be doing that for your workplace if you're not getting anything out of it. It's as simple as should be doing that for yourself. And if you can deliver something to a client in a quarter or half the time that it takes for your current workplace to do it, and at, say, 2/3 the cost, it's a no-brainer for them and it's a no-brainer for you, right? So, learning and mastering your craft there. Working with mentors. I think this is especially important when you're starting out, obviously, but is important throughout your whole career. And I've spoken to my mum, who's been in major national telco for decades, and she has told me the importance of mentorship even as you get into decades of your career. Working with mentors who are willing to teach you and willing to upskill you in various different areas of what you want to learn is essential, because you haven't been around the block, you haven't been working for 20, 30, 40 years, but they have. They know the experiences, they can give you the shortcuts, they can tell you what you need to know in order to succeed, essentially. And you don't need to be in the industry for 30 years to learn 30 years worth of lessons when you work with mentors. In my own personal career, I've been really lucky to work with mentors who, at my first job, really helped me understand the ins and outs of not only my particular field, but also, some business things in general, exposed me to marketing, business management systems, how businesses run, all of that good stuff. So if you have the opportunity to do these things, and this is something that I haven't actually put down here though, is seek out mentors and seek out those opportunities to learn new things and increase your exposure. Because, if you had have asked me when I was doing this first job out of university, if I was enjoying the marketing things that I was learning, I would have said, no, I wish that we had more work right now so that I could do what I did my degree in, and I can work in my profession and all that sort of thing. But now, as I'm starting my own business here, and I'm going out to LinkedIn, and I'm doing marketing on my website and stuff like that, some of the things that I learned in there are so valuable, and I'm so glad that I can still remember and use those. And even training the way that you think to go from sort of technical to more of the conceptual and marketing and client focus is so important when you have your own business and you're doing everything yourself. But maybe that's something for a different video. Working with mentors. Next, and this is sort of related, building your network of clients and supporters. So supporters are obviously, people inside your business who are on your team or in the industry, or people you work with who will, refer you to other clients, who will talk well about you, who will do collaborations with you, that sort of thing. So you've got them, and then your direct client base, who you want to be working with them closely, you want to be developing really good relationships with them, checking in with them. If your business doesn't have it, and this is something that I've been working on recently for mine, if your business doesn't have an onboarding process and a client management process, I think it would behoove you to first of all develop that, and second of all be the champion for that in your business. Learn the ins and outs of that, because having a client management system to build those relationships formally takes the edge off you doing it informally. You know what you're capturing, you know that you have a developed process to manage client relationships, and that sort of thing is going to help you so much when you're doing it you don't have as much time to focus on it when you're doing your own business, because you're focusing on 110 other things. So I would say develop that client management, relationship management, formal pipeline in your current business, and then carry it on and learn how to client manage and relationship manage for when you start your own business, because that's so important. A related point to this, and I spoke about LinkedIn before, is if you had have asked me, what I wish I'd been doing for the last 7 years or 8 years, one of the key things would be building my LinkedIn network, posting on LinkedIn. And this isn't exclusive to LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is the playground that people play in the industry that I'm sort of working in. It might be different for your industry. It might be on Instagram or whatever. Anywhere, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever your people sort of congregate. You need to be building up your presence there so that you don't encounter what I encountered, which is going to post that I'm leaving my current role and then that I'm starting my other business. Those are the only 2 posts I have ever had on LinkedIn. So nobody knows who I am. My LinkedIn network is tiny, like 150 people, mostly just colleagues, former colleagues, no clients, anything like that. And I mean, 150 people is great. It's great to have those people as supporters. But if I've been doing this for 7 years, that could be 15,000 people. And my message is amplified so much when I finally make that move that just on a numbers game, you're going to get people out the gate who want to work with you and have been watching along with what you've been doing as well. Because if you post on there even once a month or something like that, you get people who follow you and you gain traction on there and people start interacting with you. People want to follow what you're doing so that when you make that move, they're ready to move with you. And this sort of relates to the next point, which is profile and portfolio. So I think one of the biggest things that I wish I had have given myself more time to do before I left is develop a professional portfolio of, not the projects that I've worked on, because I know which projects I've worked on and, you know, I'm capable of talking about any of those, but sample projects, or even going to clients and saying, hey, I'm making this move soon. Can I do this for you for free in exchange for, you know, some sort of highlight on the chosen social media, so LinkedIn or whatever. Having that professional portfolio, something to throw up on your website to give to people when you're talking to them, is so valuable. And as an example of this, I had a meeting with a client potential client, who was in logistics last week. And I wanted to give him something. One of the lessons that I keep seeing over and over that I'm trying to put into practice is give people upfront value before you ask for anything from them. And I think it makes sense, right? When you are having a human, interaction, people like to be reciprocal. They like reciprocity. If you give them something upfront, they're going to be more inclined to give you something back, rather than if you just say, I want this from you, I want your business or whatever. So anyway, I wanted to give this person something for this meeting, and so I worked up a briefing for the logistics sector where they were, and I think they really appreciated that. And by the end of the meeting, I don't know if it would have turned out this way if I hadn't given them anything. Maybe it would have, but by the end of the meeting, I think they really understood that I was on their team. I cared about what they were doing. I was technically proficient because we went through some of the things in that briefing, and it just improved the whole relationship, and it showed that I was going to give them something without ever asking for anything in return, just off the bat like that. So I would really recommend that you build your portfolio so that potential clients, people you're talking to, can look at your business profile and know what the quality of your work is. And if you can offer it when you're starting out, give something to people for free. Or even when you're not starting out, do a newsletter of your industry or anything like that. If you're working on new technical insights, tell people about that. Give them something to chew on for free. The next one is more of a general business approach, I suppose, but looking for pain points and opportunities. I think the thing that happens when you give yourself time before you make the move is you can really do an in-depth market analysis and say, okay, I know that what I'm doing right now has a market, and I can just sort of replicate that, which is kind of what I'm doing for part of my practice. But you can also look at the market and say, okay, where are the gaps here? What's being missed out on? And that's the other half of what I'm trying to do, which is more of that innovation. And I think that unless you're really certain on the opportunity that you see in the market, I think if you have both of those things, it gives you a nice way to have a foundation of doing something that you know works already, but then also have this room for potential. It's sort of like when you're investing, you have really solid portfolios that you can invest in, and you know that any impact to one of those businesses isn't really gonna impact your overall portfolio. But then you might have something that's a bit riskier as well, where if it might fall off a cliff, but at the same time it might go 100 times its value as well. So you sort of balance those out. And then the last one that I wanted to cover during this sort of groundwork stage is acquiring skills and experiences. So the other thing that I would say, if you ask me, if you could go back and wave a wand and have been doing something over the last 7 years, one would be growing my network. The other one would be taking every opportunity and actively looking for opportunities to expand your skill set, expand your network, have different experiences, because that opens your eyes, firstly, to challenges in your particular field that you can develop solutions for. Secondly, it opens your eyes to opportunities in the market. And thirdly, it opens your eyes to all of the interconnected networks that are out there of business and people and just in society. And there are so many ways that you can capitalize on those opportunities, while also, it's difficult to phrase it, because at the end of the day, you are looking to run a business, you're looking to, make a profit or whatever, whether that's for, if that's for a charitable goal or for your own goal, whatever, it doesn't matter. Your business needs to be successful. So you have to talk about it in terms of being successful in business. But being successful in business also means that you're helping people. You can help people solve their problems. And if you are constantly taking these opportunities and going out and talking to people and seeing these opportunities, you know how to solve them. And that's going to make you a very successful business person, but also it's going to make the people that you do work for love you, because you're solving all of their problems. So that's something that I would definitely recommend to people in any stage of their career, as well as look out for those opportunities. And just as another example, I went to the first networking event that I'd ever been to a few weeks ago. Maybe I've been to some before that, but the first one that I'd ever wanted to go to, put it that way, because I am quite an introverted person, and I don't like networking events because they're awkward and you feel like you have to sell something, and I just think they suck. I'm trying to turn that around, but regardless, I went to this networking event not really expecting anything, and not only did I meet that logistics person that I mentioned before, I also met somebody else who had literally just got off the phone with the vice president of a very influential client who I also had happened to have done work for over the last 6 months at my previous employer, and nothing set up with it yet, but there's potential for a collaboration with that straight off the bat, just absolutely randomly. Now you can say that's, down to chance, and sure, it was, but if you're not networking and you're not out there, then you're not taking any of those chances. So I think it's essential that you take all those opportunities that you can, get used to being uncomfortable, which is a difficult lesson for me, but one that I'm trying to learn. And when you do that, it's just a numbers game. The results will come in time. So that's the whole groundwork, stage one. Learning what you're about, learning your craft, working with mentors, developing your network of clients and supporters, building a unique profile or portfolio, whatever makes sense for your business, looking for pain points and opportunities, and acquiring skills and experiences whenever you can and actively seeking them out. If you're doing those things, then I think you are setting yourself up perfectly for the type of transition that I'm trying to document here. And I think that no matter what your professional background or your ideal, company or role is, if you're doing those things for 2, 5, 10 years, you are going to... It's the difference between... I hope you can see the sort of barren rock that I'm sitting on and down here, but it's a difference between scattering seeds on this rock and then going over the valley and there's beautiful fertile soil with, fertilizer and all this sort of thing, and putting your seeds in there. It's just night and day. And even having done the limited amount that I have, I can see how much of a difference it makes. So again, this is all a hypothesis, taking a step back, But my hypothesis is that if you do these things, pretty much no matter what business you are about,